As you've probably heard, a fourth Trump indictment is imminent, which is pretty wild to think about. This is out of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office and the investigation that Fani Willis has been heading up into Trump's attempts, specifically in the state of Georgia, to overturn, possibly unlawfully, the 2020 election results. And one of the iconic parts of this is Trump on the phone with Brad Raffensperger asking him to find 11,780 votes, but it's more broad than that. But we'll always remember that stunning, wild moment. And one of the things that is making people expect any moment now this fourth indictment to come is the fact that Atlanta, and specifically around the courthouse, preparations are in order. And I have this CNN reporting for you on that.
CNN's Nick Valencia is in Atlanta. Nick, you're seeing some new signs. Fulton County is preparing for an indictment against Mr. Trump. What are you seeing?
That's right. Security preparations have really ramped up here, Dana, in the course of the last several weeks. They've been putting up metal barricades here. We understand some of these plastic barricades that they put up, they filled with water to make them harder to move. And of course, part of these ramped up security preparations have to do with the countless threats that the Fulton County DA has received since leading this investigation. Over the course of last year, some of those threats, Fani Willis says, have been credible. She's spoken about it publicly, saying that she's needed to change her own personal security detail. Of course, the rhetoric coming from the former president does not help that. He's called Fani Willis a racist. He said that this investigation is politically motivated, and now we're seeing road closures around Fulton County Courthouse. Pryor Street, this road right in front of the courthouse, has been shut down. I mentioned those barricades. We're seeing a heavier than normal police presence, and there was also this letter that Fani Willis sent to law enforcement agencies around Fulton County telling them to be prepared for the potential of an indictment to happen anytime between now and the end of the month, or September 1st. There is two grand juries seated here in Fulton County. One of them is going to be tasked with hearing the evidence gathered by the special purpose grand jury. Remember, Dana, they handed over their charging recommendations in February. It will be that evidence that the grand jury looks at to decide whether or not indictments will be leveled here and Trump will be arrested and indicted for the fourth time.
And we remember a little bit ago, Fani Willis reaching out to law enforcement sources saying, up security, be prepared, here's the timeline. And as I've previously noted, why would you need to up security significantly if you weren't indicting Donald Trump, or at least if that wasn't what you were pursuing in terms of the grand jury? And it's very likely that they'll hear this evidence and indictment will come down possibly this week. The figure that was given, or the particular date, was before September 1st, so it could be later in the month, but a lot of the reporting seems to indicate it could happen this week or next week, which is truly historic. Fourth indictment coming soon. And on that note, a little bit more reporting on this. First, from Ross Story, Fulton County Courthouse eerily quiet as Trump indictment looms. Orange barricades and metal fences erected last week around the Fulton County Courthouse, where a possible indictment of Donald Trump looms, has slowed down activity in the area, resulting in less foot traffic and more police presence, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And according to that report, the blocked off sidewalks will be reserved for news crews to camp out if Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis hands Trump his fourth criminal indictment, which is widely expected to happen imminently. And here's a little moment from Fani Willis getting asked about the potential of an indictment.
That I took an oath, and that the oath requires that I follow the law, that if someone broke the law in Fulton County, Georgia, that I have a duty to prosecute, and that's exactly what I plan to do.
And if I'm not mistaken, that had to do with a question on the subject of, does the federal indictment on similar actions, at least the nationwide effort to overturn, possibly unlawfully, the free and fair election in 2020, based on that indictment, is that altering your charging decisions or your steps moving forward? And she was saying, I have in my role an obligation to hold people accountable for their violations of the law, separate from any other accountability that is coming Trump or anyone else's way. And super kind of hard to imagine reality is what we're dealing with now when it comes to the interest in this. As Axios reports, numb to Trump, data shows drop in scandal interest. And it takes information from Google Trends looking at how over time, as more and more indictments have happened, and as we enter into a possible fourth, shortly after the third that we just saw federally, second federal one, third total, and we wait for the fourth, it just gets less and less interesting to the public. And Axios writes, the public's attention to former president's legal drama has declined with each subsequent indictment, according to new data pulled across television, social media, and search activity. Despite the unprecedented criminal charges against the former president, the shock is starting to wear off for now. I don't know if I like that. That's kind of disturbing that quickly people can go, yeah, okay, former president getting indicted, whatever, current presidential candidate. And especially because all of the indictments are going to be absolutely historic and important. But the most recent one, it having the least interest because it's not the first, not the second, is unfortunate. And especially if this applies to the fourth, because both the third and the potential fourth have to do with Trump's coup attempt. And it's so important that Americans recognize and then act accordingly. The reality that we had a president who attempted to overthrow a free and fair election and install himself president, and concocted a possibly fraudulent scheme to do so, and wanted to throw the democratic results out and just choose himself to be the leader for the next 4 years, the most anti-democratic action you can imagine for an American president. And so the fact that now he's possibly being held legally accountable for that should be so important, relevant, and interesting to all Americans, but it's not, because people are getting kind of numb to it. And in a sense, I don't blame them, because it does seem, even just doing this job, I do keep up with it, but it's hard to keep up with, wait, this investigation, this indictment, this one, that one, on these charges, that charge. And so for some people, eventually you just move on with life and go, okay, yeah, a bunch of legal troubles kind of, but I'll keep charging forward. Hopefully the importance is heard and recognized by as many people as possible of Trump being held accountable for all things, all violations of the law, but especially those that implicate the future of our democracy. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.